Version of my journal. I'm Stephanie Rivers. Come on in, kings and queens, and welcome to the conversation. We are multicasting on several platforms. You might be watching me on Facebook or YouTube or Twitter or LinkedIn. But whatever platform you're coming to us on, we want to thank you for joining us. I'm Stephanie Rivers, and you're watching my video journal. If you are new to the conversation, we want to welcome you. And if you are a returning subscriber, welcome back. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe so that when I post new videos, you'll be the first to know. What are we talking about today? Well, a Massachusetts man has filed a federal civil rights lawsuit against three cops at Arlington, Massachusetts Police Department for what they did to him in February 2021. Arlington, that's about 10 miles outside of Boston. A lot of people claim that Boston is one of the most racist cities in the United States, and this story is an example of why they probably feel that way. What did these cops do to this guy in Arlington, Massachusetts? We're going to talk about it right after this. Hi, I'm Stephanie Rivers, and I want justice. The police officers involved showed reckless disregard. Hello, and welcome to the video version of my journal. I'm Stephanie Rivers. And if you want to comment on the current topic, I just put the link in the chat so you can come on in and comment, or feel free to use your fingers and join the conversation. Now, imagine that you're a Black person walking down the street, minding your own business, when a white person who obviously is not you and who you are not associated with runs by you as he is being chased by the cops. Then imagine those cops point their weapon at you and tell you and the white person that they're chasing to freeze and get on the ground. Both of you freeze because there's guns pointed at you. Then the white man drops to his knees, but you don't drop to your knees because you're just walking down the street minding your own business. So you stand there with your hands up. Well, while the white person is being that was being chased is left unattended, now the cops turn their attention to you, slam you to the ground, and put your face in the snow because it's in Arlington, Massachusetts in February, so it's snowing. And then that cop puts his knee in the back of your neck, Derek Chauvin style, and you start to tell the cop, "I can't breathe," George Floyd style. Then a third cop rolls up on the scene and he starts to restrain you as well, even though you're already being restrained. Now, eventually, they put you in handcuffs and they detain you and they put you in the back of the police car. All the while, the white person that they were initially chasing is just standing over there or kneeling over there, watching everything go down. Now, if you're Dontovan Johnson, you don't have to imagine that this is happening because it happened to him. Here's a photo of Dontovan Johnson. This happened to Dontovan Johnson in February of 2021. And so Dontovan Johnson is the person who the black guy who was just minding his own business. Stephen Conroy is the name of the cop who violated Johnson's civil rights by unlawfully detaining him for no particular reason. So here's how it all started. And then I'm going to take that out. Here's how it all started. There was a hotel staff in Arlington, Massachusetts. They called police to say that we have a guy who's renting a room and he's stealing televisions out of the rooms, out of the hotel rooms. So they give the cops the name of the person. So when the cops show up to the scene, they already know the person's name. They ran the name through their computer system and came up with a picture. So when they show up to the scene at the hotel, they show the picture to the hotel staff and say, is this the guy whose name that you gave us? Does this look like the guy who's stealing TVs? The hotel staff said, yeah, that's the guy. The cops go to the room where the guy's supposed to be staying. They knock on the door and they don't catch him. He runs out. Maybe he jumps out the window. I don't know. But they said the cops started chasing the guy down the street. So the cops know the suspect. They know what he looks like. They know his name. They know he's a white guy. Okay. So Dontovan Johnson is just minding his own business, had nothing to do with it. Everybody, by all accounts, says Dontovan Johnson had nothing to do with what was going on at this hotel or anything for that matter. So, why did the cops end up slamming Dontovan Johnson, the black man, on the ground while the white dude who they were supposed to be chasing, who was stealing TVs by everyone's account, is just sitting, kneeling down, doing nothing? So that's what's going on. Eventually, the cops, when Dontovan stood there with his hands up, according to the reports, they slammed Dontovan to the ground in the snow, face down, put their knees in the back of his neck, and he's telling him he can't breathe. Another cop shows up to the scene. A third cop shows up to the scene because there was two cops. The second cop on the scene says, that's not the guy that we're supposed to be handcuffing. This is the white guy over here is the one that we're chasing. A third guy runs up, sees the first guy, cop, chasing and apprehending Dontovan, and he pounces on Dontovan as well. Then they arrest Dontovan. They put him in handcuffs, put him in the back of the car, drive him back to the hotel where they initially started the chase. And so at this point, I don't know what happened to the white guy that they knew was the suspect, but they walked Dontovan to where it was an impromptu lineup that they made him go through. So they asked the hotel staff, is this the guy? Was he involved at all in stealing other TVs? And the hotel staff says, no, this guy that you are showing us right now has nothing to do with stealing TVs. So they eventually let Dontovan go. But that was after they had slammed him to the ground, had put a gun in his face, had cut off his circulation and his breathing, and he had to tell him, I can't breathe. And between February 21st, 2021 and right now, I'm assuming they did nothing to right the wrong that they had done to Dontovan Johnson. And that's why he has filed federal civil rights, a lawsuit against the Arlington, Massachusetts Police Department. Yet this is another example of why some Black people don't trust law enforcement, because even when we're innocent, minding our own business, we become the subject of unjustified scrutiny and aggression and deadly force in some instances from bully cops who think that having a badge gives them the right to violate our civil rights. There was, I don't know if you remember this, but and you can look it up. There was a segment of, let me put up my captions that I spent so much time putting together. There was a segment of The Daily Show with Trevor Noah where they talked about how racist Boston is and you can look it up. And everybody was laughing, and they stopped people along the way and were asking them questions. People who actually lived there, and not a lot of people don't realize that during the transatlantic slave trade, when the slave ships were mostly being ported in Virginia and Maryland, that at some point the same people who were doing the slave trading, they decided they wanted to develop another part of the new world, the United States. So they started sending slave ships to dock in the New England area, the Massachusetts area, which is why Boston and that area is called New England, because it was a new part of England. And so that's why a lot of us, we think of the South as being most racist and having the tradition of slave trading. Well, Boston was the second part of that slave trading that was going on in the United States, and therefore that's probably why they Boston has the reputation of being just as racist as the southeastern United States. So just a bit of history for you. But back to the story now. Thank God that Dontovan Johnson lived to tell about his ordeal, because some people don't live to tell about it. And although I haven't spoken with Mr. Johnson about his ordeal, the fact that he waited a year before he filed his federal civil rights lawsuit against those police officers and the Arlington, Massachusetts Police Department, that tells me that he was under the false impression that these cops and or the police department they represent would take steps to right the wrong that they did to him. And after a year, after at some point, you're like, if y'all are not going to do right by me, I'm going to take it to the next step. And that's what he did. But a year later, these cops have proved what Maya Angelou said, and I'm going to paraphrase: when racist cops show you who they are, you believe them. So these people, they had already violated your civil rights. Now, what makes you think they're going to come back around and make it right and apologize and do what they needed to do? You got to give people a chance, but they gave you little to no chance, because they put the gun in your face, slammed you to the ground, when clearly they knew the suspect that they were after was a white person. So why did they go through all of that? Because they feel like they can. Some people, they're just bullies with badges. They're just like gang members with badges, and they do that. So the lesson that I want for us to take from this is that you have to know your rights so that you'll know when they are being violated, and you have to speak up for yourself. And when I say speak up for yourself, that doesn't mean you just want to go out and protest, and you want to, just make a big deal about it in the media, because there are other ways for you to make a big deal about it. And so I'm going to try to add something right fast to this. But before I do that, because it's going to come up before I want it to. So it's in your best interest to have on standby a an attorney, whether you are dealing with something like prepaid legal or some type of situation where you can call an attorney and ask questions, whether you have an attorney in your family or something like that where you have access to the law, or whether you just got Google and you try to look it up. You need to be in a position where you understand that sometimes you're going to need legal counsel. And in this case, Dontovan Johnson got legal counsel, and they told him, I'm sure you got a lawsuit on your hands, especially when the people are not trying to do right by you. So instead of just protesting, or instead of just doing media interviews about how you've been wrong, you need to get proper legal counsel. And I'm going to try to have someone come on, and periodically I do have people in the legal industry to come on and comment on issues and cases that are in the media. And so if you have the evidence to file a lawsuit, then that's what you need to do. And I'm sure there were cop cams videos going, and there's probably some other people who had video going. But the bottom line is this black man was minding his own business, and the suspects were being chased, a white dude, by the cops. But still, they chose to pause on this white suspect and take this black man down just because they could in the moment. So after the moment, when you survive the moment, know that sometimes you got a lawsuit on your hands, and instead of you being all verbal about it in a moment, you just need to do what you need to do in the court of law. And that's what he's doing. So it's not going to happen overnight, but if you never follow through, then you're never going to get the justice that you deserve. So some of you might be saying, well, I don't have the money to pay for an attorney, and attorneys cost money. You could do something like a prepaid legal, like I was saying. But here's what I want you to know. I was recently scrolling through social media, and I saw this. Where is it? I saw this picture, and I just want to share this with you. This is a picture of Chris Brown charging fans $1,000 for VIP meet and greet. And if it's true, I don't know if it's true, but if it's true, these are just three women who paid Chris Brown $1,000 for VIP meet and greet. So that tells me that grown people do what grown people feel is important for them to do. There's no way that we can say, oh, I don't have the money to do this. I don't have the money to do right by my family. I don't have the money for an attorney, but you got plenty of money to pay somebody like Chris Brown for a meet and greet so you can like pose a picture with him and what? So you can show that to who? Your friends. But you just spent $1,000. Think about the lost cost opportunity that you could have had with that money. In fact, there's this board game called Cash Flow 101, and look it up. It's by this guy named Robert Kiyosaki. He wrote a book called what was the name of that book? Cash Flow. I think it was Cash Flow 101. What, and then it talks about what his rich, oh, it's called Rich Dad Poor Dad. That's the name of the book. Rich Dad Poor Dad. What rich people teach their kids that the poor and middle class don't. That's the name of the book. And he created a board game along with it. And the board game just talks about opportunities that you have that you pass up because you claim you didn't have no money when you had the money. So like it's kind of based off of Monopoly, actually, the Monopoly board game, whereby you get these cards and the card says you have $500. Are you gonna buy a $500 pair of tennis shoes, or are you gonna pay $500 for a TV, or are you gonna spend this $500 and get you some stock in a certain company? So they give you options, right? And then later on down the line, they come back, you start to decide what it is. How am I going to spend this money that I have? And so as you keep going through the board game, that money that you spent, if you spend it on stocks, then the stock just tripled. Now you got $1,500, stuff like that. And so, or if you spend it on tennis shoes, oh, your tennis shoes wore out, you don't have no money, and you ain't got no shoes. So this board game is like awesome. It really helps people to see kind of like, wow, if I would have made better choices with my money when I only had a couple of $100, I could have a couple of thousand right now. So I just thought I would bring that up. I used to play Cash Flow 101 was the name of the board game. I used to play that all the time, with when I had time to play games. And I, still life's lessons are learned through different opportunities that come my way. So I would just say to close this out, that if you feel like you don't have money to do the things that you need to do, like put your an attorney on retainer, look for it. And I'm not even in prepaid legal. So, and there are other types of prepaid legal opportunities out there or companies out there. So I'm not saying, I'm not advocating for, I'm just saying, put yourself in a position where when you need some legal advice, because along the way, whether you get a speeding ticket or whether you have a license to carry and you end up shooting somebody legally or illegally or whatever, or you somebody mistakes you for somebody else with the same name. If your name is John Smith, there's like a million John Smiths out there. So somebody might stop you and say, you're the John Smith we're looking for, and really they're looking for somebody else. Or if you end up somewhere and it's a white man or another person, it could be a black person, it could be a woman, it could be anybody, and then they stop you and want to treat you like you're the suspect when clearly you're not the suspect, chances are you're going to need an attorney. And so put yourself in a position where you don't have to go looking fresh, or you in lockup and now you're looking for an attorney. You want to have an attorney in your Rolodex so you can go ahead and make that phone call, and you won't have to be trying to figure it out in the middle of a situation. That's what I'm saying. So you can always email me. I'm going to put my email in the chat. It's info at Steffanie Rivers, which is my name, info at StephanieRivers.com. You can use that to email me if you have some feedback, or you can always chat, because you know I always welcome you into the conversation. So if you haven't already, be sure to like, share, and subscribe so that when I post new videos, you'll be the first to know. And in the meantime, you make it a great week ahead, and we'll see.